There is a one-room house made of mud brick in a town called Zarephath, and inside it a woman is holding her son. He is not asleep. She knows the difference. She has held him asleep 1,000 nights, felt the small weight of his breathing against her chest. And this is not that. This is heavier. This is final. The famine outside has already taken the grain, the oil, the future, and now it has reached inside her arms and taken the one thing she had left. A man is standing in the doorway. His name is Elijah, and he has no idea what he is about to do because no one has ever done it before. He takes the boy from her. He carries him up a narrow stair to the room where he sleeps, and he lays the small body on his own bed. And then this prophet, this man who has called down fire and stopped the rain, does something that does not look like power at all. He stretches himself out over the dead child. Ounce. He cries out to God twice. At third time, and into that still, breathless room, life comes back. The boy opens his eyes. Now, most people, when they think about someone coming back from the dead in the Bible, think about one morning, one empty tomb, one stone rolled away at the end of the whole story. And you would be right that it happened, but you would be wrong about how rare it was, because this widow's son in a starving town, this is not the resurrection at the end of the book. This is the first of 9. 9 times, long before that famous Sunday, the Bible records a human being who was dead and then was not. 9 doors that death was forced to open, one after another, across more than 1,000 years. This is not a story about one empty tomb. This is not a story about one miracle. This is not a story about magic. This is a story about every door death was made to open before the last one came off its hinges for good. And the strangest one of all 9, stay with me because we will get there, is a man who comes back to life without a prophet, without a prayer, without a single word spoken over him. He comes back because his dead body happens to touch the bones of someone else. The Bible tells it in 2 short verses, like it is almost nothing. Hold on to that. We will come back for it. But first, the widow gets her boy back, and the prophet has just shown the world that death is not always the last word. Move forward about a generation and you meet a different woman in a different town. She is not poor. She is wealthy, settled, respected in a place called Shunem, and she has a problem money cannot touch. She has no son. So when the prophet Elisha, the man who inherited Elijah's cloak and a double share of his spirit, tells her she will hold a boy in her arms within the year, she almost does not let herself believe it. But it happens. The boy is born. The boy grows. And then, one ordinary morning, out in the fields where the men are cutting grain under a hard sun, the child grabs his head and says the only words he will say in this entire story. "My head! My head!" They carry him to his mother. She holds him on her knees until noon, and at noon, he dies. Here is a woman who was given a miracle and then watched it die on her lap. You know that particular cruelty, even if you have never experienced it. The gift that gets taken back, the answered prayer that turns to ash, the thing you were promised slipping out of your hands while you hold it. She doesn't scream. She lays the boy on the prophet's bed, the same bed, shuts the door, and rides hard to find the man of God. And Elisha comes. He goes into the room alone. He lies down on the child, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands, until the cold body grows warm. The boy sneezes 7 times, and open his eyes. That is 2. A widow's only son, a rich woman's promised her. Both gone, both back. But it gets stranger, much stranger, because the third one in the Bible has no grieving mother, no praying prophet, no warm body pressed against a cold one. The third one is almost an accident. Elisha is dead by now. He has been dead long enough that his body is only bones in a tomb. And one day some men are out burying a friend of their own, and they look up and see a raiding band coming over the hills. Armed men, the kind who kill first and ask nothing. There is no time, so they do the fastest thing they can. They throw their dead man into the nearest open grave and run. The nearest open grave is Elisha's, and the moment that dead body touches the old prophet's bones, the dead man stands up, alive. On his feet. The Bible spends 2 verses on this. 2. No sermon, no crowd, no explanation. A corpse touches some bones and walks out of a tomb, and Scripture tells it almost in passing, the way you would mention the weather. Pay attention to that, because it is the strangest detail in all 9 accounts, and the Bible treats it like the least important one. Why? Why would anyone tell the most impossible story in the flattest voice? Hold that question. It matters more than it looks like it does. 3 people now, and not one of them was healed. They were dead, and then they weren't. Stop and notice where you are, because something is about to change. Everything you have heard so far, the widow's son, the promised boy who sneezed 7 times, the man who stood up among a dead prophet's bones, all of it happened in the old world, the world of Elijah and Elisha, prophets stretching their own bodies over the dead, crying out, working at it, 3 tries, 7 sneezes. Death gave ground, but it gave ground slowly, and only to men who begged. That is the first half. And it is only the first half, because the next person who walks up to a dead body in this story does not stretch out over it, does not cry out 3 times, does not even raise his voice. He just speaks, and the way death answers him is going to be different from anything you have seen yet. If these accounts are doing something to you, if you did not know there were this many, if even one of them has caught you off guard, do me a favor and subscribe before we go on. It genuinely helps this channel reach the people who need it, and it means you will not lose the second half, which is where this whole thing turns. And tell me in the comments, which of these 3 did you already know was in the Bible? I have a feeling most people only knew one. Now, let me show you what happens when death meets someone it has never met before. There is a town called Nain, and on the day this happens, 2 crowds are about to collide at its gate. Coming out of the town is a funeral. A young man is being carried out on an open bier, wrapped and ready for burial, and walking behind him is his mother. She is a widow. That word is doing a lot of work here. Her husband is already gone, and now her only son is gone too, which means in that world, she has just lost not only the 2 people she loved most, but every bit of protection and provision she had left. She is walking out to bury her whole future. A large crowd from the town walks with her because everyone understands what they are watching. Coming into the town is another crowd, and at the front of it is Jesus. He sees her. And before she says one word, before anyone asks him for anything, before she even knows who he is, the Bible says his heart breaks for her. He walks up to the bier and he tells her 2 words you would never say to a mother at a funeral. Don't cry. It should be the cruelest sentence in the world. Then he reaches out and touches the bier, which a holy man was never supposed to do, and he speaks straight to the dead boy. Young man, I say to you, arise. And the dead man sits up and starts to talk. Notice what just changed. No stretching out over the body, no 3 tries, no 7 sneezes, no desperate prayer. He sees a grieving stranger and he reverses death because he wants to. A whole town watches him do it. But the moment that shows you most clearly who this is happening in a private room with a father on his knees. His name is Jairus, and he is not the kind of man who kneels. He runs to a synagogue. He is respected, religious, important, and he is on the ground, in the dirt, in front of a traveling teacher because his 12-year-old daughter is dying, and respectable will not save her. Jesus agrees to come, but on the way, the message reaches them. Too late, she is dead. Do not bother the teacher anymore. And Jesus turns to a father whose heart has just stopped and says, do not be afraid, only believe. When they get to the house, it is full of people weeping and wailing, the professional noise of grievance, the hired mourners already at work. And Jesus says something that makes them laugh at him. He says the girl is not dead, she is only sleeping. The Greek word he uses is koimao, to fall asleep. He looks at a dead 12-year-old and calls it a nap she has not woken from yet. They laugh in his face. He puts them all out. He takes the mother and the father into the room. He takes the girl's hand, another thing a holy man was not supposed to do, touch a dead body. And Mark keeps the actual sound of his voice in the language he spoke it in. Talitha cum, little girl, get up. And she gets up. And then, in a detail no one would ever invent, he tells them to give her something to eat. The God who just defeated death is worried the child is hungry. That is 5, and the stakes have been climbing the whole way. A poor sound, a promised his, a stranger's son, a whole town's grievance, a father's only daughter. But there is one more in this stretch, and it is the one death tried hardest to win. Stay with me, because this is where it gets remarkable. A man named Lazarus gets sick in a town called Bethany, and his 2 sisters send for Jesus, who loves him. And Jesus deliberately waits. He waits until Lazarus is dead. He waits until Lazarus has been in the tomb 4 days. And 4 days is not a random number. In the Jewish thinking of that time, there was a belief that the soul lingered near the body for 3 days, hovering, hoping somehow to return. But on the 4th day, when the body began to break down, the soul departed for good. The 4th day was the day hope was officially, completely over. Jesus does not show up on day 1 when there is still a chance. He shows up on day 4 when everyone agrees it is finished. He stands outside the tomb. Even he cries. Then he tells them to roll the stone away, and Martha, practical to the end, says the thing everyone is thinking. Lord, by now there will be a smell. 4 days. He is breaking down in there. And Jesus, in front of a crowd of mourners and skeptics and people who came just to watch, calls into a tomb that smells of death. Lazarus, come forth. And out of the dark, bound hand and foot in grave clothes, a dead man walks into the light. Here is what most people miss. 6 people have come back now, and the most public, most impossible one, 4 days dead, decaying, witnessed by a crowd, was raised by a man who would himself be dead within the week. When Jesus dies, the Bible says the earth itself reacts. The sky goes dark in the middle of the afternoon. The huge curtain in the temple, the one that walled off the holiest place, tears in 2 from top to bottom, as if torn by hands starting at the ceiling. The ground shakes, split rocks. And then Matthew records something so strange most people have read right past it. Tombs broke open, and many bodies of holy people who had died were raised, and they came out of the graves and walked into the city, and many people saw them. Let that sit for a second. At the exact moment death finally won, at the moment it took the one life it should never have been able to touch, graves all over the city popped open like locks giving way. Death reached for the Son of God, and the recoil cracked open tombs that had been shut for years. And here is where we come back for the question I asked you to hold. Why does the Bible tell the strangest resurrection, the man and the bones, in the flattest, most offhand voice? 2 verses, no fanfare. Now you can see it. Go back and count with me. The widow's son, the Shunammite's son, the man among the bones, the young man of Nain, Jairus' daughter, Lazarus, the holy ones at the cross. Every single one of them had something in common that nobody likes to say out loud. They all died again. The widow's boy grew up and died. The promised son died. The man who touched the bones died. Lazarus, who walked out of that tomb to a stunned crowd, Lazarus died. All of them got more time. None of them got out. These were not the destination. They were rehearsed. Previews. Death opened the door 8 times, and each time, sooner or later, it shut that door again and kept the person inside. That is why the Bible can tell even the strangest one so calmly. None of them was the real thing. They were all pointing at something that had not happened yet. There would be 2 more after the cross. In the early days of the church, Peter would kneel beside a seamstress named Tabitha, a woman who had spent her life sewing clothes for widows who had nothing. And he would say, "Tabitha, arise," and she would open her eyes. And a teenager named Eutychus would fall asleep during one of Paul's long sermons, drop 3 stories out of a window, and be picked up dead. And Paul would wrap him in his arms and give him back alive. 9 now. 9 people across more than 1,000 years, and every one of them still has a grave. Here is what I want you to feel, not just know. You have been in the room. Maybe not yet, but you will be. The room where someone you love is in the bed and the breathing is changing, getting further apart, and you are holding a hand that is getting cooler, and you are listening for the next breath, and it does not come. And the silence after that last breath is the loudest thing you have ever heard. Everyone in this story stood in that room. The widow, the mother in Shunem, Jairus, Mary and Martha. That is the door. That is the one you are walking toward, the one we are all most afraid of. 9 times that door swung open and then swung shut again, and then there was a 10th. Early on a Sunday morning, some women walk to a tomb to finish burying a body, and the tomb is open, and the body is gone. And it is not gone the way Lazarus came out, bound, blinking, needing to be unwrapped, needing a meal, needing to be told what just happened. This one walked out on his own. No prophet stretched over him. No voice called his name to wake him. Nobody had to say, "Arise," to this one, because there was no one greater to say it. He stood up inside the dark and folded the grave clothes and walked out into a garden, and a woman who loved him thought he was the gardener. Even outside the Bible, the historian Josephus, writing for Rome decades later, records that this man lived, that Pilate had him executed, and that his followers insisted he appeared to them alive again afterward. The enemies of the story could not make the story go away. And here is the thing that makes the 10th one different from all 9 that came before. Every one of those 9 eventually went back through the door. This one never did. 2,000 years later, there is still no serious anyone can point to and say, he is in there. The door that opened that Sunday is the only one in human history that was never, ever shut again. The other 9 were death letting go for a little while. This one was death letting go for good. So let me leave you with 3 things to carry out of this. The first is simple, and it is just true. 9 people in the Bible were dead and came back before that Sunday morning. Not one, not only the famous one, but 9, stretched across more than 1,000 years, from a widow's mud brick house to a window ledge in a city called Troas. You can go read every one of them yourself. They are all there. The second is for you, not just about them. Every one of those 9 still died in the end. Their graves are real, which means none of them was the point. They were promised. They were death being told again and again across the centuries, you do not get the final word. Practice runs for the one time it would be true forever. And the third is the one I actually want you to take to bed tonight. You are walking toward that room. We all are. The cooling hand, the breath that does not come, the silence afterwards. It is waiting for every person you love, and one day for you. And the whole point of these 9 doors swinging open and shut is that one door, exactly one in all of human history, opened and was never shut again. There is no grave with that man in it, and the promise of that one empty grave is that it has room in it for yours. The tomb did not just open for him, it opened first so that one day it could open for you. So here is my question, and I want you to answer it. Out of these 9, which one did you never know was in the Bible? Which one caught you off guard? Tell me down in the comments. I think most of us grew up knowing one and had no idea about the other 8. Death has opened a lot of doors in this story, but it only ever lost one of them for good.